The Undisputed Era have all of the gold. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Welcome to your Enhancement Talent review for WWE NXT, the debut episode on USA. They had the first hour on USA. They had the second hour on the WWE Network. That will be the format for this week and next week, I believe, and then the week after that will be when they do the whole 2 hours on USA. This was a very good show that I'm excited to talk about, and we're going to go straight away into the main topic, the title of Undisputed Era capturing all of the gold, and this would happen in what was essentially the main event of the USA portion of the show. So this was at the end of the first hour. It was set to be Velveteen Dream defending the North American Championship against Roderick Strong. This was a very solid match. It was very well paced. It picked up as it went on, which I think is something that can be lost in some matches, is the pacing of a match, to save all of the good stuff until the end and not have it just be one stream of just ridiculousness. So, that was very good. These two worked very well together. Towards the end, we're going to get an Undisputed Era run-in. They're going to come in and surround ringside. I did think that this ref bump was kind of dumb, honestly. Roderick Strong pulls Dream into the ref. It looked more like he pulled him next to the ref, and the ref took a phantom dive and just died for a few minutes. And so this ref is dead. And the Undisputed Era, they distract Velveteen Dream for just a moment, and that allows Strong to come in and hit his finish. The ref conveniently wakes up as soon as the pin is happening, but Velveteen Dream kicks out at 2. So now, with the ref up, Dream hits the Dream Valley Driver. He's about to go for the Purple Rainmaker off the top rope, but we have one Undisputed Era member on the other side of the ring distracting the ref, while one pushes Velveteen Dream off the top rope. Strong hits his finish. I forget what it's called. It's that. It's like that. It's basically like you lift him up for a suplex, but flip him inside out into a backbreaker, landing on the back to knees. I don't know what it's called, but forgive me for that. Strong hits his finish and pins Velveteen Dream, winning the North American Championship, meaning that now Undisputed Era have the NXT title around Adam Cole, the tag team titles with Fish and O'Reilly, and the North American title with Roderick Strong. And, they've been teasing doing this for a long time. There's been a few takeover shows where a lot of people thought that this was going to be what happens, that Undisputed Era was going to get all of the belts. But they held off, and they did it here on the debut episode of the USA show. And I'm interested in that, because now all of your champions are in the same faction. And I think it's a very good story you could tell with all of them individually. And what happens when they all lose the titles? Is there going to be internal conflict at some point? Or is anyone going to turn against each other? And, you think about that, and a lot of people would say that it would be a shame if Undisputed Era were not to go to the quote-unquote main roster as a unit. But now, with NXT on USA, and this is now a main roster show, in my opinion at least, and I would say the opinion of many others, just as far as quality, and now they will have the audience to boot, hopefully. So, this is the main roster. So, we don't have to save anything. We can tell the stories that we want. And I think that could be an interesting way to go. I don't know what the end goal is, or what you would hope to get out of it by splitting the Undisputed Era, but it's all on the table now. We don't have to save them to go to Raw or SmackDown. So I'm interested in what they do with that. I do think that this sets up Velveteen Dream to go to either Raw or SmackDown, because I don't know what left he has to do with NXT. A little bit similar to Johnny Gargano, who I also think should make the jump to either Raw or SmackDown. And Dream, the only thing, he hasn't gotten a main title run yet. He hasn't been able to do a run with the NXT title, but the work that he's done in NXT over the past couple years with developing that character, he's done all he can do, in my opinion. And I think that his gimmick and his personality is something that a show like Raw or SmackDown could really desperately use, in my opinion. Because, you've heard me say it on reviews in the past, is that one of the things missing is characters and big personalities. That is what wrestling is founded on. And the big boom period, if you want to call it that, everyone had a distinct personality. And that is what Velveteen Dream has, and what I think he could really utilize on Raw or SmackDown, whichever one you want to put him on. And I think, I've said this about guys before, but I don't think there's a way you can mess up Velveteen Dream. I've said that, and now that I've said that, it for sure will happen. But Dream is someone that I think can always be over just because of his charisma. And so I would like to see him get the chance to show that. There was the one NXT show where he had the tights that said, "Call me up, Vince." I think it's about time Vince picks up the phone and calls up Velveteen Dream. So, that was the ending of the first hour, and now with Undisputed Era having all of the belts, we get into who's going to be the challengers for all of those. I'm not entirely sure the direction that they're going to go in with that. I don't think Dream is going to get a rematch, because I really do think he is going to get called up. I don't want to use that term anymore. He's going to get moved to Raw or SmackDown. But we'll see where everything goes with everything else. The interesting part of this review, for me, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat, I would think, is that I don't watch weekly NXT shows. This is the first full NXT show, other than a takeover, that I've watched in a long time. So, and I think that should be one of the main audiences that they're trying to pull in. Those people that, like me, they hear how great the takeovers are, they watch the takeovers, but they don't watch TV every week. So I think that should definitely be one of the audiences that they're trying to pull in, and that's what'll make the review here fascinating. Is that I'm not overly familiar with all these guys. There's a few guys that I'd hardly heard of because they're not on the takeovers, so I don't see them. So I think that will be interesting to kind of see my perspective on these guys and see how they grow on me watching TV every week. And Now that we've got the main talking point out of the way, we'll go through the whole show, which was very fun to watch. The opening video package was awesome with Triple H, and he introduces us to the new era of NXT. We start off with a 4-way number one contender match. The winner of this match will face Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's the NXT Women's Championship. Io Shirai versus Bianca Belair versus Mia Yim versus Candice LeRae. This was a pretty fun match. It was a really good opener to the show. It was really just big move after big move. And it didn't fall into the trap of fatal 4-way and triple threat matches of people laying outside the ring for comical amounts of time. You know, everybody was involved in some way or another, so that was good. Everybody got their chances to shine. Candice LeRae is going to end up picking up the win here with a reverse Rana into a Lion Salt. She pins Mia Yim, and she will challenge Baszler for the Women's Championship. Baszler would come out as Candice LeRae is exiting. She comes out with Duke and Shafir. Basically just to say, I'm the champ, you're not. Gets in her face, holds the title up. Good stuff from Baszler. I always have loved Shayna Baszler. Now, Candice LeRae I hadn't seen a lot of, other than the Mrs. Gargano stuff that she was just involved in. But as far as actually seeing her wrestle, I haven't seen a lot. And she looked very good in this match. I thought everyone really looked pretty good in this match. But she gets the win, and I think she was the right person to get the win because I don't know that everyone in this match had gotten a shot at Shayna Baszler, but I'm pretty sure Belair did, and I know that Io Shirai did. I don't know if Mia Yim ever did. Not that I know of. But LeRae hasn't had a championship match, and I think that she was the most intriguing prospect of having that match. It's something we haven't seen before, and I think there's a good chance that Candice LeRae could win because I could see Shayna being moved to Raw or SmackDown as well. Shayna is someone that I feel like we've been saying would be moving to Raw or SmackDown for the past 2 years. She's had the title in various points for a long, long time. And it's been great. She is a great character. She is a great champion. And she's a fantastic wrestler. As a heel, she is probably one of the best in the company, I would say, at knowing their role and being able to portray their character and wrestle in a way that accentuates that. So, I very much love Shayna Baszler, but I would like to see her do something different, because, how much more can we do with Shayna as the forever champion in NXT? So I would like to see her move up, or move over, whatever you want to say. And Candice LeRae, it'd be interesting to see her get a shot with the title. So I'm into that. After that, we got Cameron Grimes squashing Sean Maluta, who I had not heard of, in 5 seconds with a double stomp. Maluta runs at Grimes. Grimes simply jumps up, hits him with the double stomp to the chest, and pins him. So, cool. I know Cameron Grimes, he was in the finals of the Breakout tournament, but I never watched any of that, so I'm not overly familiar with it. This didn't really give me a lot to go on, other than they are clearly invested in him enough to give him this squash match, so I will hold further judgment on him until I get more of a sample size than a 5-second match. After this, we had Pete Dunne versus Arturo Ruas. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I absolutely love Pete Dunne, and this was a good little showcase for him, especially because he won the match via submission by doing the whole thing he does with the bending of the fingers. He got someone to submit by bending their fingers back. And I think that's fantastic. Because in the Pete Dunne matches I've seen, that's a spot that he does, but I hadn't seen him actually win a match by submitting someone like that. That doesn't mean he hasn't. It just means that I hadn't seen it before. So, if you haven't seen it, it's new to you. So that was definitely new to me. I like that that they're trying to establish that early on in this new era of NXT. So I thought that was nice. After that, we had Xia Li versus Aaliyah, I think her name was. I meant to double check that. But Xia wins in a quick match. Not much to say on this. Her little kick finish looked cool. So, same thing with the Cameron Grimes match. I will hold judgment until a larger sample size is given. So after this was a part that I really liked on this show. We had Kushida, who is supposed to be facing Denzel something or other. Forgive me, I forgot to go back and look what his last name was. But as Denzel is in the ring after his entrance, who should come out but Imperium, minus Walter. So the other three, they all jump Denzel. They take him out. And then they stand at ease for Walter to make his entrance. The crowd were so into seeing Walter, to the point where if Walter did not show up, they would have been so pissed off. So, it was a good relief for them when Walter's music hits. Walter grabs a mic. He says that this ring is sacred, and we, being Imperium, are here to restore honor and tradition to this sport, and those who disrespect that tradition will have to answer to him. And that is when Kushida interrupts, and he simply just says, this was supposed to be my time. And all of Walter's goons, one by one, try to attack Kushida, but they all get taken out. Walter gets his hand on Kushida, but Kushida escapes him with a kick before he gets out of dodge and gets up out of there. So, I loved this because this was the only promo, quote-unquote, of the night. It gave us Walter in NXT, which is awesome, that he will be incorporated in this and not just on NXT UK. And I also, when this was happening, the whole beatdown on Denzel, I felt bad for Kushida because I was thinking that his stuff was just going to get cut and he wasn't going to come out. So it was nice that he did come out, they turned it into something, and now you have a more intriguing sort of matchup for Kushida going forward. And, Walter is someone that, in the limited amount of things I've seen from him, I absolutely love him. I've seen him in the match against Pete Dunne. I believe that was TakeOver New York, if I'm not mistaken. And I just recently, a couple days ago, watched the match he had with Tyler Bate at NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff. And that was the only match I watched on that show, just because I heard how great it was. And it did not disappoint. That is genuinely one of the best wrestling matches I've ever watched. And both parties played their role perfectly. Tyler Bate as the babyface fighting from underneath, and Walter as just this dominating force that he is. It was such a great match. And now with Walter in NXT, I think we can look forward to more matches like that. And hopefully we'll get a good one with him and Kushida pretty soon. So that was really nice. After that, we got, surprisingly to me, Oney Lorcan versus Lio Rush. And the winner of this match is going to get a shot at the Cruiserweight title on 205 Live. So Lio Rush has not been seen since the whole issues that he had with complaining, and it was a very public issue. He talked about not being able to afford the life on the road that WWE's main roster talent live. So, now, months later, he is finally back on NXT and competing for a possible title match. It was great to see Lio back, and right away, Lorcan welcomes Lio back himself with a flurry of running European uppercuts. It was a great match dynamic throughout, with Lio being able to fly around the ring and do the cruiserweight sort of stuff. But Lorcan has the power to lift Lio out of the air, but also can keep up with Rush and any of the high flying and all that stuff. So it was a good dynamic between the two. I'll never get tired of seeing Rush do that springboard stunner. It looks freaking fantastic. Getting into the finishing sequence, Rush goes for a frog splash, but Lorcan gets out of the way, causing Rush to land awkwardly on his feet, hurting his knee. Lorcan tries to submit Rush, but Rush gets to the rope. Lorcan gets slapped in the face, and his reaction after this was absolutely frightening. Just looked like a freaking madman. Lorcan slaps Rush multiple times in the face. He just grabs him by the head and beats him in the face over and over and over. Lorcan then goes for a running move, but Rush turns it into a Spanish fly, followed by a frog splash for the win. This was the match of the night. Really fun match. I mean, maybe you could say it was the North American title match, but I kind of preferred this match. I thought Lio Rush was fantastic. I thought him and Oney Lorcan worked great together. And I was just really happy to see Lio Rush back, because regardless of anyone's opinion on him, I don't think it can really be disputed that he is a talented guy in the ring. And he definitely should be an asset for any brand that he is on, be it 205 Live or NXT. So I'll hope to see more of Lio on NXT. That would be nice if we can get some more out of him there. So the main event of this show is set to be Matt Riddle versus Killian Dain in a street fight. This match goes only a few minutes, a few kendo stick shots, but then they fight backstage. And, there's a lot of guys, a lot of wrestlers that are around the backstage area. And so they're fighting. I believe Matt Riddle gets thrown into a production truck, but shit breaks down when, out of nowhere, Imperium attacks Matt Riddle, which then invites the Street Profits to break that up. And then, literally, the whole roster get into a huge-ass mosh pit brawl. And Riddle and Dain try to get things going back in the ring, but the brawl backstage spills over into the arena. So we go off air with this huge free-for-all brawl, with the closing image being a big dive by Dain taking out multiple people. So normally I would crap on something like this because we set up a match and it didn't have a finish. But I loved this ending. I loved that what it portrayed. And that is that we have a locker room full of guys that are hungry, are full of piss and vinegar, and are just looking to beat the living hell out of each other. There's no stupid friendship stuff. It's just we're all going to beat the hell out of each other, and that's a great aspect, a great angle to close the show on. I thought this was done to set the tone for what to expect going forward with NXT. So I really did enjoy the way they went off air, and I believe we're getting a rematch with Riddle and Dain next week, if I saw that correctly. So we'll still end up getting that match. So I'm perfectly fine with the way that this closed. This show overall was very good. It was a breeze of 2 hours. I mean, sheesh. And some of the shorter matches, like the squash matches, I didn't really care about, but they were there. I mean, it didn't really harm the show at all. But other than that, there was nothing to complain about this. This was a great introduction to the main stage, and hopefully, the world was watching that first hour. I hope they do a good rating. Any wrestling fan who wants an alternative from the WWE main roster, quote unquote, and now there's going to be 2 alternatives, but I'll wait to make judgments on AEW until we're getting into the week by week. Even though I have no doubt that it'll be good, it's a very different style than NXT. NXT, the way they've positioned it, and any wrestling fan who watches the Raw and SmackDown shows and just complains about there being too much nonsense and too much bad storylines and not enough wrestling. I think that NXT is the perfect solution to that. I think that NXT is what those people should be watching, because this is a product that is built purely around in-ring work and having some of the best wrestlers that you could find. And if they're incorporating guys like Walter, the other NXT UK guys, Tyler Bate, the Cruiserweights, then that's only going to up the ante on that. And I think that that's definitely something that people should be keeping an eye on. We'll get into the Wednesday Night Wars a few weeks from now. It will be interesting to see how that goes and what the mainstream audience is going to appeal to more. Are they going to be more into AEW, or are they going to be more into NXT? I'm interested to see that. And the great thing is, with it not being 1995 anymore, we can easily watch both. We can DVR. We'll have NXT on the network the next day. And I will be continuing NXT reviews as well as AEW reviews. So I'll definitely be interested in seeing what all of that does. And I'm also really interested to see what WWE does with Raw and SmackDown once SmackDown moves to Fox. Because that seems like it's going to be the reset button once we get through that in the draft. So I'm fascinated to see what SmackDown does. Fascinated to see everything with all of these good wrestling shows. So we will be here on the channel for all of that. I'll be back here tomorrow with a podcast. We're going to do WWE draft predictions, in fact. And yeah, that'll be up on the channel tomorrow into Friday morning. But until then, appreciate you guys watching. Later.